Edwin, who studied English literature in college, but he enjoys, he prefers going to plays off Broadway than, rather than reading plays by playwrights like William Shakespeare. And his evaluator today is yours truly. So I'll be reading his objectives. To use stance, movement, gestures, facial expressions, and eye contact to express your message and achieve your speech's purpose. Secondly, to make your body language smooth and natural. Time you have is 5 to 7 minutes. Warm welcome, please.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Most of you have been studying English and know exactly what that comes from. But a lot of people don't realize that that comes from William Shakespeare's Hamlet. I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm not going to recite it to you because it's going to be too long and it's going to take my whole speech to do that. But the thing I like to talk about is the meaning of to be or not to be. To be, basically, as you can see, can literally mean, do you want to be a Toastmaster or not be a Toastmaster? Or do you want to be a graduate student or not a graduate student? Or do you want to be a doctor or not a doctor? That's a very literal thing. But the most important thing is from William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was one of the most famous English playwright and poet in the English language. The reason I talk about him is because he's the one that actually did that in the play. It comes from Act 3, Scene 2, where Hamlet is actually talking maybe to himself, or I know it's by himself. But in the play itself, it's complicated, but he doesn't know if there's somebody in the room with him when he's talking about it. But to be or not to be has many, many meanings, because I believe that William Shakespeare was a genius. Let's take, for example, if you and I are English speakers, we have a certain number of words that we can use in the English language. Most people are using maybe, let's say if you're using 1,000 words in your language, you'd be about a foot long, like a little baby. Most people in America, it's about 2 feet, just a little bit larger baby. Some people are even 3 feet. How tall do you think William Shakespeare would be? He would be taller than I could reach, be the size of a basketball player. Maybe 7 feet, 8 feet tall. So he was a real genius. The reason I bring that up is because in the play itself, I'm not going to talk too much about the play, because the play itself is not that important. The meaning of the play means a lot. We're talking about in the play, he talks about whether he wants to commit suicide, to be alive, or to die. The other thing that it might be is he might even be talking about none of that, because as I said, William Shakespeare was a genius, and as a genius, he could have many, many meanings within the play. I don't know if you people know anything about William Shakespeare, but he was not a very good grammarian. He did not know the English language that well, but he was a genius with words. When I say he's a genius, he had a vocabulary of 7,000, 8,000 words that he would use. That's why he had 138 different types of poems called sonnets. So he's a very good sonnet. Anyway, I would advocate that if you want to know about words in English, go study him. But let's get back to the reason I'm talking. To be or not to be, I can read it for you. In fact, I want to give you this. I can pass this out. This is to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and the arrows about wages fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing them in them. That in itself is just one line. You can see it's very long. I mean, I will read it if you want me to, but I don't really want to. The thing I believe is that in English language, we have studied idioms. Idioms means that there's a phrase or expression, and that phrase or expression does not have anything to do with the meaning of the words itself. So when you say to be or not to be, it could mean, do I want to die? Some people interpret it as, I have so much pain in this world that it's not worth living. Should I kill myself? These are different types of meaning that you can come from that. But I believe that the most important thing about William Shakespeare is that he is able to give us questions not for us to find answers, but to find more questions in our life, to apply them, to apply those questions, to find out more about what are going to give us wisdom, what's going to give us understanding about life. And I believe that's exactly why William Shakespeare is so great. Not because he could write, but because he could provoke the mind. He could actually make sure that you, as a person, would think about other things. So in conclusion, I believe that William Shakespeare is not really the meaning of this particular to be or not to be. Is that the question? The question really has to do with what are you going to apply in your life? How are you going to answer the question when you have all these pressures from modern day living? You know, some people have more pressures, other people feel that they're suffering. I feel that actually we have a lot of emotional problems that we don't understand. So we actually ask these type of crazy questions. You know, is it worth living? And I think it is worth living. So, because when you're applying these certain things and you're finding answers, these answers actually give, these questions I should say, are giving you answers, and these answers are actually giving you more questions, and more questions are giving you answers. So I believe to be or not to be is something that we all should apply to our lives. Toastmaster Edwin?
To be or not to be. Thank you, Edwin, for sharing this with us.